Hi, welcome back to Tyne Valley Motorhomes. I'm Callum and this is the handover video of a Swift Champagne 694. So one of the first things you want to do when you arrive on your site or you are planning on going away, if you're lucky enough to keep this at home, is always charge your leisure battery. So to charge your leisure battery you need your hookup cable. You always want to start off with hooking the motorhome up first and then connecting it to the house or to the site depending on where you are, just so that you're never walking around with a live lead. Next, when you arrive on your site, before you hook the vehicle up, some sites have water on the pitch, each individual pitch. Some just have one tap located within the park grounds. So what you'll want to do is get your hose pipe out, connect it to the tap because it's mainly just a brass tap the site supplies. Put the flat end in here and fill the water. I would just wait until it overflows and then it knows that you've got a full tank of water. Or you can look on your control panel and see how much water you've got on board. If you want to top up without moving the van though, what you can do is there's a 12 volt pump here. Get yourself a wheel pump, connect here, which gives it 12 volt. Put one end in where the hose goes and put the pump into the water and it'll suck the water out of the bucket or the drum and put it into the onboard water tank without moving the vehicle. Underneath here you've got your fresh water drain off point, so these are electronically controlled from inside the van with a 12 volt valve. In the winter you want to make sure that this is all fully drained down so that there is no chance of the water freezing. And if you've taken on a source of contaminated water you'll want to let it out. So that's your fresh water drain point. This is your dirty, so this is anything that you've put down the plug hole, again operated by a 12 volt control valve inside the vehicle. Drive as close to the grid or the hedge or the bush as possible on site and let your water out. Don't drive around with the added weight of waste water because it's just going to use more fuel and impact your payload, meaning you can't take as many things with you because you could potentially driving overweight. Using the habitation key, which is this key here, you can open all your outside locks, but this one's your toilet, so push both doors in, drop the door down, and then to get the cassette out, lift the orange handle and slide it out of the vehicle. You can carry it with the handle on the front, or you can pull it up and bring the wheels up and wheel it round to the disposal point, which is normally beside your toilet block on site. And then to empty, remove the grey cap, pop that to one side, start to pour the toilet down the designated point, press the orange button to allow a bit of air in, stop it glugging, tip the contents out. Once you've done that, there's normally a tap, so put some water in, give it a rinse, tip out again before going in with a cap full of chemical. This holds 120 ml, can be green or blue depending on what the site prefer you to use, and pop it straight into here with the chemical. Tighten it back up and pop the cassette back into the van, and then you can use your toilet until it indicates it's full again. External shower point, so this is a cold water fed shower, so inside the vehicle will be a connection which connects on here, and on the other end of the hose will be a trigger gun. Making sure the pump's on, you'll get a pressurized flow of cold water to hose the bikes off, the boots, the dogs, whatever you need it to do. 2 fridge vents, flue for the boiler, so the boiler is underneath the bed. The flue is more for when it operates on gas because it allows the gas fumes to exit the vehicle. It does operate on electric as well, but that is inbuilt with an immersion heater in the water, so it's more for gas like I've said. LPG, so liquid petroleum gas. Normally this vehicle would just be fitted with a standard conventional gas bottle which the customer would have to supply. However, the last owner of this vehicle has converted it to a refillable system known as Gaslow. So you've got a gas filling point, bayonet fitting. You go to your local centre that sells LPG, push the gun on, twist it onto the bayonet fitting, pull the trigger back to pressurise. That's pressurised onto the van. You can now press and hold the button on the pump until simply it stops. Once it stops, you would pull the trigger back down towards the vehicle, unscrew it off the van and hang it back up and it will be full. But make sure when you're filling with the bottles open so that you're not pushing against the valve. And in here are your cylinders. So you've got one 13 kilogram bottle and one 6, so they're nice snug in there. So you've got enough gas in there to last you a while, depending on how you use it. But normally these are put on if you're planning on going on the continent, and obviously they are cheaper to fill. So a system like this is probably going to cost you around £40 to fill from empty. You can see on tops of the bottle how full each one is. So you can see there it's in the green, and this orange, yellow, should I say, valve is your on-off. So making sure you switch off before you drive, making sure you turn it on before you use it when you arrive on your site. You've got a plus and a minus on there, so coming this way, so scrolling clockwise turns it off, anti-clockwise turns it back on. So making sure you turn it off before you do start driving and turn it back on. And it's the same with the little bottle as well, but what will happen is they will fill together, but you can manually select which bottle you want. So just up here, this is your regulator. Above you've got a manual changeover valve. So you've got a nib on here. This is pointing to this far back bottle now, or it's pointing to the front bottle. Once one bottle is empty, you'll have to manually select the other bottle so that you've got a reserve bottle full of gas to use when one bottle is empty. However, when you put the filler in to fill it, it will fill both bottles until it stops, and that is both cylinders full. But like I say, make sure you leave the valves open when filling. Just open them, crack them open slightly so that the gas isn't pushing against the valve, and turn it back off once you have left your site or you've filled the system up, just to make sure your gas is all safe and secure in the bottle and isn't going to cause any danger to yourself or other road users on the road. On the back of the van you've got your high level brake light, reversing camera. If you did want a bike rack, this is Thule bars, so you would need a Thule bike rack to fit. Parking sensors on the bottom. Access to your garage, so you've got your on and winding handle, your hose for your shower, external shower, your ladder for the drop down bed, rafter bar, carpets, winter fridge vents are in there, so you've got some storage in the back as well. Awnings on the top there, which is a Thule Omnister awning, which we can show you on collection. Two 30-volt sockets, so if you want power on the outside of your van, or if you're going to put an awning on an air tent and you want power out here, you can, as long as the vehicle's hooked up. Two 30-volt will work. External gas point, so if you're wanting to do a bit of outdoor cooking instead of using the oven inside the van, a lot of people now are buying Cadaks, which are a brilliant bit of equipment. What you can do is you can use the gas connector here. This end goes into there and connects into the vehicle, whereas this end connects onto your hose. So you'll need to go and buy yourself a length of gas hose and two Jubilee clips to connect that fitting onto the hose and the other end onto the Cadak. Turn the tap on and it'll use the bottles on board the vehicle instead of carrying a spare. Coming to the passenger door, you can use the main Fiat Ducato key to unlock the diesel tank and fill with diesel. So you've got a lockable diesel cap. Tyre pressure is 5.5 bar, can be found on the slam panel of the passenger door, which is 79.5 psi on the tyres. It's up to you what you want to run at, but that's what they recommend. You can ask a tyre fitter or anything. Some people tend to find these a little bit too hard and they'll run somewhere between 70 and 75 psi, but it's up to you. Engine batteries underneath the floor on a Ducato, not underneath the bonnet, so this needs to be lifted up if you ever want to put a charger on, take the battery off or replenish the battery. Underneath the passenger seat is a toolkit which includes a jack and a brace and a tow eye. This pulls off, this slides out for everything that you need, and your bonnet releases here. And most of your fluids are to the left, which are underneath the driver's side of the vehicle. So you've got your screen wash. Lift the 2 tabs of this scuttle panel off, and this will lift off, and you've got power steering and coolant if you ever need to fill that. Brake fluid, oil filler, and your dipstick for checking your levels here is down the front. Paint codes on the main scuttle panel there. Earth for giving or receiving a jump start, so your black clip would go on there, and then you've got your air filter here, and just beside your air filter, if you put your key in and lift this up, or screwdriver, anything flat, this is your positive for giving or receiving a jump start. So this is your 12-volt control panel. So you can see on either side you've got the wastewater level and the freshwater level. So you can view your water levels on either side of the panel. When you come on board the vehicle, you'll want to turn it on, which is this button here, and it'll say power on or power off. So you turn it off when leaving the vehicle stood up, in storage or parked on the drive when it's not in use. You can use this up and down arrows to scroll through the temperature, the amperage of the leisure battery. It'll tell you which battery that's currently using, which is battery L, which is leisure battery, which is the battery designed to power the motorhome, leaving the van battery separate to just start the engine. It tells you that you're on hookup, and it tells you the time. It tells you the amperage of the leisure battery. You can select the battery here, so if that ever said vehicle battery, you want to press enter and you want to select it back over to the leisure. Just so that you've got 2 separate batteries, so if the leisure battery did go flat, you can put it onto the vehicle battery for a short period of time. But I never advise this, just in case it flattens the engine battery and then you go to start the engine and the engine doesn't start because you've drained the battery. Solar panels, if fitted, will always go to sleep when it's connected to mains 230 volt because it's the bigger amperage of feed of power, and 12 volt can't comply with that. It tells you your vehicle battery as well, so it's in there, that's 13 volts. And that your leisure is charging. Coming down this side, you've got the pump, so making sure you've got enough fresh water on board, which you have there. You can put the pump on and that will pressurize the taps, toilet, shower. Without the pump on, you'll get whatever's left in the lines and it simply will stop, and you'll get no water out of any of your outlets without the pump being on. You've got your interior lights, your interior dimmer lights, and your awning light, which is the light that's on the outside of the vehicle, just above the habitation door underneath the awning. So these are your electronic controlled valves for your fresh and wastewater outlets. So on the outside of the vehicle there's a pipe which lets the fresh water out and lets the wastewater out. There's no taps on these. It's controlled by a 12 volt electric valve. So you've got to come inside the vehicle, either drain your waste off, so drive over the grid or as close to the hedge depending on what the site facilities are, and empty your wastewater before driving away, and you can hear the valve open and drain it off. Drain it all off because you don't want to be driving around with the added weight of wastewater, because once it's dirty there's nothing more you can do with it. It's just going to impact your payload and your fuel consumption. And then your fresh, just if you're not using the vehicle for any length of time or you've taken on a source of contaminated water, you want to drain this off just to stop the water from going stagnant on board the vehicle. And in the winter, make sure both valves are drained down fully before either leaving them in the open position and turning your 12 volt off. This will stop any water from freezing in your wastewater tank and your freshwater tank and causing any damage. So to operate your digital Truma CP control panel, to turn the system on and off, you press and hold to turn it off, press it once to turn it on and it'll come on, and then to get into the menu you just press it once. You'll notice you've got a thermometer in a van flashing at the top corner. If you press enter, this is how hot you want your vehicle. So you've got all the way off in the summer when you don't want the heating, or you've got all the way to 30 degrees in the winter when it's very cold. So once you're happy, so if we say 27 degrees there, that's how hot I want the inside of the motorhome to be, I'd press enter and that'll save that at 27 degrees. Now you've got a thermometer in some water, this is how hot you want your water. So if you don't have any water on board, you'd have it on off. 40 degrees for showering, 60 degrees for doing your dishes, but it's entirely up to yourself how hot you want your water. Or you've got boost, which will turn off your heating and prioritize your water first. But for this, we'll just say 60 degrees because we want the heating to run along with the water. Next, you've got what source you're heating the water and the vehicle off. So you've got gas, so make sure your gas bottle's on and it's turned on. You've got mix 1, which is 750 watts of electric and gas. You've got mix 2, which is 1850 watts of electric plus gas. So you'd use mix 2 in the winter. If you're away and it was really cold, use a mix 2 will boost the vehicle up to temperature because you're using both sources together. Then you can turn it over to electric. So you've got electric 750 watts EL1 and you've got EL2, which is 1850 watts of electric. Don't waste your gas if you're on a site, unless you're away and it's really cold and you're using mix 2 for the first 10-15 minutes. Then allow electric to continue to heat the motorhome and maintain the temperature. Because if you're on a site, you've paid your site fees after all, you'll not want to waste your gas. Then you've got your fan in the top right hand corner, so eco or high or boost. This is just a 12 volt assisted fan. So eco will use less 12 volt. High obviously uses more fan speed, so it's going to use a little bit more 12 volt. And boost uses full power on the fan, which is going to use the most out of the 12 volt battery. Sleep with it on eco because it's a lot quieter than sleeping with it on anything else. If you're going to sleep with the heating on in the winter, you've got a timer so you can time the heating to come on and off, just the once though. Clock in the middle and then spanner. You can go all the way down to reset, and to reset the control panel, if you ever get a warning triangle in the middle, reset, preset, click again and it will restart your control panel. And then to turn off, press and hold and it'll say off and it'll completely turn itself off. So in the kitchen you do have 3 gas burner rings. So once you've had the gas on, if you allow everything to cool down before you put the glass lid down, otherwise there could be a chance, well there will be a chance that you will shatter the glass just with the heat. So make sure they're all cool enough to touch before putting the hob top down. And then underneath you've got one grill, and underneath the grill you've got an oven. Making sure that you might want to take these out when travelling because they can rattle a little bit, so either wrap them up in tea towels or remove them when travelling and they'll just dampen the noise of the motorhome. If you ever need any parts, you've got this Fetford sticker here which includes the model number of the oven. Storage drawers below, making sure you push the catches in to lock them in place, and you do have some storage beneath. Fold away drawer. So this folds up the door. You can slide out your cutlery tray. You've got storage at the bottom, and you do have storage at the top, which is where your drainer board, so this is your drainer board here, this goes into here when travelling, so it just allows it to keep a hold of it. So that when you are travelling it's not going to cause any issues because it's just going to sit in here and store away in its own compartment. 2 230 volt sockets for kettle and a toaster, appliances in the kitchen. Push the catch in and you do have a cup rack on the wall, and a plate rack here as well. 150 watt solar panel fitted. This is your regulator on the wall there. So that's flashing, which means the battery is fully charged. If it was a solid light, it means it's charging. But like I say, when hooked up, the vehicle will always prioritize mains 230 volt hookup, and the solar panel will go to sleep because it can't compete with what mains 230 brings in on a 16 amp feed to what a solar panel could bring in at 1 or 2 amps. Microwave is an 800 watt microwave, and again the plug is just up here if you ever need to isolate it, and you can use a microwave, and it's as simple as pressing quick start. So you can adjust that and start the microwave off. So to operate this Dometic styled fridge, so to turn the fridge on and off, you press here. So it's a flush panel, so just rest your finger upon it and you'll be able to turn it off like so and turn it back on. This fridge is an automatic fridge, so it has an automatic function. It depends whether you want to use it or not, but I would personally just leave it on automatic. So automatic, what that does is it finds the best source available to the motorhome at any one time, and it will always prioritize mains 230 volt. So if you're hooked up, whether you're pre-chilling at home or you're on a site, it will always prioritize mains 230 volt. If I was to unhook the vehicle and I had a gas bottle on like I do now, because we've got your vehicle on test, it would switch over to gas and self-ignite. Or if I was to start the engine, it would switch over to battery, which is a 12 volt feed from the alternator of the engine, not the leisure battery. So it's only designed to keep the temperature that it's at when travelling. Won't get it any warmer, won't get it any cooler, but it'll maintain the temperature, so that is why you have to pre-chill beforehand, or if you've been to one site, you've obviously had the fridge on and it's full of shopping. A couple of days beforehand, I always like to hook the motorhome up, charge the leisure battery before I go off, put my shopping in the night before. Fridge has already been cold because it's been on for that couple of days. Allow it to chill overnight, and then when you travel, it'll keep at a steady temperature until you arrive back on your site and either hook up and it'll automatically switch back to mains, or it'll select gas. But please note that wait 20 minutes before lighting on gas. This is a safety reason, in case you forgot to turn your gas bottle off. It's a feature on the fridge which is programmed to wait 20 minutes in case you're filling with diesel in a petrol forecourt. You don't want that sparking where there's naked fumes of petrol. This is just beeping because the door's open, letting you know that your door's not shut, and it isn't shut because I'm talking about the control panel at the moment. If you wanted to manually change the source, you just press here and you can manually change it from 12 volt off the engine to gas, to mains, and back to auto. This is your temperature, so 5 when pre-chilling with nothing in. You might just want to turn it down once you put your shopping in, because sometimes it can be too strong. And if you ever got a fault code and you want to clear it, all you need to do is press the on button until you hear it beep once, and that'll clear it if the fault is intermittent. But obviously this fault's still there because the door's open. Making sure when you've turned it off, you pull this little clip off, and that just helps keep the door open so it ventilates and doesn't trap the air in and cause any smells and mold to form inside the fridge. But when using, you want that pushed back and you want the door fully shut in place. So in your washroom, which is a combined washroom on this one, you do have your toilet, so you need to make sure that your toilet, to work the flush, the pump's on. So press the pump on the panel, press the blue button on the back here. You'll get a flow of water. You want to put a small amount of flow of water into the toilet first. This helps lubricate the seal between the blade and the cassette. And then before you think about using it, on the front of the toilet, on the pedestal, there is a grey lever, so you want to open the lever, use the toilet, flush the toilet after use, and then close the lever off. 3 green lights underneath the diagram of the cassette will indicate that when it is full and it's time to empty it, rinse it and replenish it with chemical. So in the washroom area, we've spoke about the toilet. Make sure when you winterize that you unscrew the shower head from the shower hose here, just so any water doesn't collate in this loop on the hose. Lie this hose down in the shower tray. Make sure that all the plastic finish, including the walls, the sink, the cabinet, the toilet and the shower tray itself, you don't use any harsh chemicals on this, such as a bleach. Use Fairy Up liquid, microfiber towels, no harsh chemicals, even a Dettol spray, but no bleach, because you will damage the finish on the plastic. It's got a brilliant white finish, and when you use bleach, what happens is it strips the top off and it leaves a cream orangey stain, and then you'd have to get it all sprayed, which is known as a speed coat, to bring it back up to this finish. So just that's a little top tip. Just watch what you are cleaning your washroom out with. Nothing harsh, because it will damage the finish. So directly underneath the bed, you've got 2 fixed boards, but it does have a little recess in here on the left hand side of the bed. So under here, your boiler sits here. Your boiler does 2 jobs, because it's a Truma boiler. It heats the water of 10 litres at a time, which is automatically refilled when the pump's put on from the cold water tank. And it also heats the vehicle via the air ducting pipes. It's very important that you allow the water out of the vehicle over the winter when not in use. Otherwise, there is a chance that it could freeze and cause damage to the boiler, which isn't covered under the warranty, because it's your responsibility as the consumer to use and protect the vehicle in line with the warranty, which stipulates that it doesn't cover frost damage. So what you need to do is let the water out when you've got it parked on the drive, not in use over the winter time, or in the storage yard, to avoid the water from freezing. So this yellow toggle is currently lying down. What you need to do is you need to lift it up. So all you need to do is put your hand down here and lift the toggle up like so, and it will drain off all the 10 litres of water directly out underneath the van. Leave that stood up on end during the time you've got the vehicle not in use. When you come to reuse it in the March time, lie the toggle back down, shut all the taps within the van, assemble the shower head again, fill the vehicle with water and pressurise it with the pump. So turn the pump on, cold side of the tap first, you'll get an automatic flow of cold water. Go to the hot side, it'll start to cough and splutter until you get a pressurised flow of water from one tap. Then your boiler is primed and ready to go. So located just behind the driver's seat, if you pull this section forward, you will be able to get in and view your power supply unit. So your power supply unit has 2 30-volt trips in here and a main trip tester. So if you think you're not receiving power, try tripping the van. If the van trips like it does now, you've got power. If it doesn't, view where your other hookup lead is connected to, so your other end, to see whether it is a problem with where you're getting the mains from, which it sounds like. This side you do have your 12-volt fuses, which are all listed here. So go and grab yourself a assortment pack of fuses, just in case one does blow. You can replenish the fuse. I've got a system shutdown button on here, which is the black button at the top, which turns all power off from the leisure battery, getting to any 12-volt appliance for when storing. Reverse polarity light, if you are receiving reverse polarity, this will light up. And you've got the main fuse, 2 30-volt fuses for the heating and hot water on electric, and the charger, which charges the leisure battery and vehicle battery when the vehicle is hooked up. Leave these as they are and they'll light up when hooked up. If you lift them up, you can turn them off manually. So if you do have a problem, just see if it's that. Just make sure they are lighting up when on mains. So fitted to this one is a manual drop down bed. So to work this, there's two straps. There's a strap that clips on here, which you need to take off. And there's a strap on this side, which you need to take off. I'll just pull off. And then what you'll be able to do is push the catch in and pull the bed down. There's a ladder in the back which clips on here. The safety nets front and back if you're putting children in, which clip up to these black clips on the tie back straps on the bulkhead and on this side, so that if you are putting children in, they're not going to roll out in the sleep. And a little top tip for you is leave this down when winterizing, just so that the mattress doesn't mark the ceiling. And always make sure that you take your pillows off. You can leave a light duvet on there and you can push it back up. It goes up in sections as well. And if you're struggling to get it down where you can't push the button in, and if you find it a bit hard, just put your hands here and push up. You'll then be able to push the button straight in and pull it down with ease. So to make the half dinette lounge area into another bed, what you've got to do is you've got to put the table in this section here. So the table has a small leg on, which is this side, and it helps bear the weight on the table, but your table goes in here on the two runners. You've also got this little board, which is normally found flipped up underneath the base cushion of your dinette seat, which needs to come forward, and this needs to slide out, and again the hinge panel backboard will slot into that space to fill that void. So that's how the bed goes. We'll put the cushions on and we'll come back to you showing you how the cushions make up the double bed across the width of the vehicle. So to make the bed up with the cushions, what you need to do is just drop your backrests into the back, pull your base cushions forward on both sides, backrests along here. Infill cushion, which can be found in the wardrobe, just goes into the centre there and sits between the side of the bulkhead of the dinette seat and the start of the table, and it keeps it all nice and tightly compact. So that is your double bed across the width of the vehicle.